our guys use that as an excuse. And the one thing you can always do to motivate your players, you can talk about the next level. Anytime you start talking about the NBA, the ears perk up. And I said, well, boys, you guys say you want to play in the NBA, you want to be professional basketball players. Well, this is what they do. They play back-to-back games. They have quick turnaround. So we're going to see by your performance here against Eastern Illinois who has a chance to be a professional basketball player. If you're concerned about recovery or I'm tired or something like that, then you're not cut out for this. And so hopefully you can use that as a motivation.
Also, when you get to tournament week, if you're in the tournament, you're talking about back-to-back. If you're not one of the top 2 seeds who get the double bye, which is the way that it is in this conference, not in every conference, but in the OVC, you potentially could be playing back-to-back games for 4 days in a row.
Yeah, there's no question about it. Then also you're talking about getting on to the NCAA tournament or any sort of postseason tournament. There's always that quick 48-hour turnaround.
Yeah, and as far as Eastern Illinois goes, going in, this is a team that last year made the tournament. They had a strong showing under Jay Spoonhour, his 3rd season, his 4th season now, competing for a conference title. They've got a 1-game lead on Murray State in the West with 5 games left, and just so happens, the way the schedule makers doled it out, final game of the year, Murray State at Eastern Illinois. That could be for the West Division title.
Yeah, there's very little separation between all the teams at this point in time. You don't know how it's going to play out. But I think Jay's done an outstanding job of going to find about 3 guys that are really hard to guard and then putting some important role players around them. Trey Anderson is a unique matchup because what he really is he's a skilled 3-man, but he has the girth of a 4-man and the strength of a 4-man. So he's a difficult matchup. And so I thought our guys did a poor job of containing him. Obviously, the best thing that we did guarding him was getting him in foul trouble because he only ended up playing 26 minutes in that game. So I can't imagine what his numbers would have been if he'd have played 32 minutes or 35 minutes.
Yeah, Anderson played 26 minutes. He made his first 8 shots. I don't think any of them were from further out than 5 feet. Were they the first 8? I think he hit 1 jump shot. He ended up finished 12 of 17, but he hit 8 of his first 8, 9 of his first 10, and maybe only 1 of those shots was from further out than 5 or 6 feet.
Yeah, he does a great job of using his strength, and then once he gets in there, he's really good at spinning into the lane and splitting the defense. So we had talked about that extensively about making sure we surround him when he's driving the paint. So we've got to be coming from the weak side because if you're staring at him, he's very good at being able to pass the ball in the same direction he's driving, but you got to make him spin and hope for him not see you on that weak side. But, the thing, and I talked to my team about this, and what we did was yesterday we statted our passes per possession. And then we talked about our field goal percentage offense and our passes per possession. So as the passes were 0 pass, 1 pass, 2 pass, we were shooting 12% from the field, 17% from the field, 28%. As the passes increased, our percentage went up. So when we passed the ball 5 times in the possession, 6 times in the possession, we were shooting 87%, 75%, and it kept going up. When we passed the ball more than 8 times, we shot 100%, not only on our 2s, but also our 3s. And so the simple message that I was trying to get to our guys, because I thought, quite frankly, they couldn't guard us inside, whether it be in the paint on the drive or on the post feed. And now our post guys didn't finish all of those, but the one thing that happens is everybody thinks just because you get the ball inside, you're supposed to shoot 100%. No one shoots 100%. Right. So, but the quality of that possession increases because the ball has gotten to the paint. So even if we get it to Trey or Joel or Tony and they don't finish, you got a great opportunity to get fouled. But that percentage shot right there is still higher than us shooting the 3-pointer. So, what I was trying to get our guys to understand is just pass the ball. Just share the basketball because now we're going to get a great opportunity. So them getting a chance to see those stats, yesterday after the game, and it proves the point that if we share the basketball and we make the defense work, then we got a great opportunity of getting us a quality score, a quality attempt.
So you being a math guy, I can see why you would put something like that together with facts and figures to back up what you're telling them. Does it make it more believable for them and more understandable that you quantify, hey, the more passes, the higher percentage we shoot, where they can see it in black and white? These are the the hard, cold facts of the deal?
Yeah, and here's the deal. I told them, it's like a test. Like, I'm giving you the answers to the test. Like, so this is right here. We're about to have a test. Here are the answers. All you have to do is write the answers down. And so what I'm telling you, though, like, this is the answer to the question right here, like, pass the ball. And so when you don't pass the ball, when you don't share the ball, that means that you're trying to get this wrong. You're trying to flunk this test. So, to me, it's real simple what we need to do. And I think our guys needed to see that. And hopefully, we'll abide by that here in the future.
And, sometimes more passes, more chances to turn the ball over. The team you're playing, UT Martin, I think there is only one team that turns their opponents over less than UT Martin. You're not playing a team that it turns you over a lot when you face UT Martin on Thursday.
Yeah, and they play that matchup zone. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to confuse you. It's got a lot of man principles, but it's a zone, so it's a matchup. They pass along cutters, and anytime you play against a team like that, what you have to do is you have to have a lot of movement away from the basketball. Now, if you're a team that has great one-on-one breakdown guys, like Jacksonville State, when they played them early, they've got 3 good guards that can just kind of break you down and go make plays. Well, we don't have those type of guards. So what we have to have is we have to have a lot of movement and cutting through that zone, and hopefully them chasing some cutters there, we get some opportunities to either pass the ball into the paint or drive the ball into the paint because they don't have great help side. So, that matchup zone presents a problem because what they want you to do is they want you to settle for threes, and they want you to settle for quick threes.
Well, and when you're talking about quick threes, you're, again, going against your principle of, hey, here are the numbers, the more passes, because a lot of times you can go down and get a look on a transition 3 or a 3-point look early in the shot clock. You can get that look anytime in the shot clock, right?
Yeah, and we told our guys this before we played Eastern Illinois. Eastern Illinois is not a pressure team. Eastern Illinois is a team that packs it in, and so they don't want to allow paint touches. So what we're going to have is we're going to have patience. And I said, I guarantee you that same shot that you get at 25 seconds on the shot clock, you'll have that same shot with 10 seconds on the shot clock, but you'll be wide open. So we got to make sure we experience some patience and things like that. And I thought we did a poor job of that because, we settled for that 3, that contested 3 with 25 seconds on the shot clock, 20 seconds on the shot clock. And I thought we could get that same shot with 10 seconds on the shot clock, 5 seconds on the shot clock, but we would be wide open.
One of the numbers that you look at, if you are a high-powered offense, say you're a Tennessee Tech or you're a Belmont, maybe statistically, because your offense is a volume offense and you're so high scoring, you can afford to give up a higher shooting percentage defensively to clubs. If you're not as geared up offensively as Belmont or Tennessee Tech, say your team, you don't have the roster that Tech and Belmont does on the offensive side. 48% seems to be a nice cutoff as far as evaluating your squad. When teams shoot 48 or better, you are 0-12 so far this year. Now, there may be several teams on Belmont's schedule that have shot over 48%. You guys shot a high percentage against them, and they can overcome that. It doesn't appear that that's the type of club you have this season.
No. What we've got to do is we've got to hold people in the low 70s, the 60s, and that's when we experience success. That's the thing that was disappointing about our losses to Austin Peay. Because we're scoring 80 points. When we score 80 points, then we've got to win that basketball game. So, our defense has let us down. Those first 3 games, we switched to man-to-man defense. We were holding teams to 37% from the field defensively. We were holding people to 25% on 3-point field goal percentage. But more importantly, teams are only averaging 57 points per game. But then in these past 3 games, we're allowing 46% from the field, allowing 41% from the 3-point line. But more importantly, teams are almost averaging 80 points a game against us. So our defense has failed us. Our offense, quite frankly, with all our ills, has been good enough for us to win these past 3 games. But it's our defense that hasn't stepped up to the plate.
What I noticed in the first half of the game Saturday against Eastern Illinois, you have a 2-point lead at halftime, 42-40. There wasn't any defense played by either team in the first half. Agreed?
Yeah, I agree with that because I didn't think they were very good defensively. I thought we got some things that we wanted, and I thought in the second half, we could have got those same looks, those same opportunities in the second half, but we just didn't execute and we didn't make them guard us. But, we've got to make sure we've got a flavor for competition every single time we set foot on the court. And that starts on the defensive end. And I think we've got to get that attitude back.
So when you say we've got a flavor for competition, I'm reading that you wanted to see a little more fire out of your team in the second half.
Yeah, well, I think we got to identify who we are. And I think our identity has got to be built on the defensive end. We've got to make sure that our defense is a constant. Now, our offense may waver. We may not always be a high-scoring team. We may not always shoot a higher percentage. It may not always be pretty on the offensive end. But our defensive thing is that like the SIUE game. Like I'd much rather be in a game like that than a game like Austin Peay. Because now I know that, hey, we're defending, we're grinding, we're doing some things. Now, hey, if we end up scoring 80 points against SIU and they score only 50 points, that's great too. But like we've got to be a constant where we bring it to the table every single time, and we know that our defense is going to be there for us. And if we're not great that particular night offensively, because that happens to everybody, we still have a chance to win the game.
Coach Rick Ray, our guest. We are at the Kofeld Distributing Redhawks Coaches Show at Wings, etc. in Jackson. Coach Tuke is here. We'll talk football with Coach Tom Matukowicz coming up in just a couple of minutes. What I think is interesting in this game, you almost always win the offensive rebounding numbers in the final analysis. You're averaging a little over 14 offensive rebounds per game. Third best in the league in conference play. You've been a good offensive rebounding team. You had a good day against Eastern, 14 offensive rebounds, and in the game, 8 second chance points. That seems a little lower than 10 second half points. Seems a little lower than what we normally see offensive rebounding and second chance points from you.
Yeah, I tell you this now, I'm a math guy, so I got to make sure we point this out. Those stats for our offensive rebound are a little bit misleading. Like we have a lot of opportunities to go get our own rebound because we miss a lot. Okay. So, like when we're missing threes, we're missing twos, we have a high volume of offensive rebounds because of the fact we're going to get our own shots because we don't shoot the ball very well. I think the true stat to look at is like rebounding defensive percentage, offensive rebounding percentage. That gives you the true picture of where you're at. And so if you look at that, like we're towards the bottom. We're very high. Like you said, we're third with offensive rebounds.
In terms of volume.
Yeah, but if you look at the percentage, we're low. But if you look at our rebounding margin, we're toward the bottom of the OVC. But if you look at our rebounding percentage defense, we're third in the OVC. And so, like, that's the true stat that we really must look at on that. But, to your point, we get a lot of offensive rebounds. But once again, like, we have to finish that possession. I think a lot of times we get that offensive rebound and we kind of rush or hurry trying to score, and we end up not putting up a quality shot.
And the free throw shooting oftentimes results with an offensive rebound. Sometimes you're going to get fouled in the paint. You're trying to go back up with a shot. The free throw shooting, you've got to be pleased with how you have rebounded from non-conference play into conference play. You've been more consistent at the free throw line.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time in practice shooting free throws, and on the days that we have a quick turnaround where we play on Thursday, then we play on Saturday, Friday, most of the practices consist of shooting free throws. Yesterday when we had practice, we don't practice very long. Most of our practice consists of shooting free throws. So we want to make sure we're giving our guys a chance to recover. But we also want to emphasize something that we're not great at. But, we also had an opportunity against Eastern Illinois. I think it was under 3 minutes left in the game. It's a 6-point ball game. We get sent to the free throw line 4 times. We walk away with 1 of 4. Antonius actually gets the offensive rebound after Trey misses his 2 free throw opportunities. And then Antonius goes up and makes, 1 of 2. So, you had an opportunity to cut a 6-point ball game with the clock stopped. It never moved down to 3 points, and we didn't take advantage of it.
UT Martin is a team that it was interesting when they came to the Show Me Center. You beat them 68-60. I thought you took them out of a lot of the things that they do. You took away their best player, basically, Tamon Howard. They lose that game. Then they go to Eastern Illinois and lose, and you're thinking, Martin may be headed for this number. Back-to-back losses in the OVC, and they're starting to fall out of tournament contention. Now they've reeled off 3 consecutive victories. So they're on an upswing as you go in there on Thursday night.
Yeah, they've been playing really well, and they've changed some of their personnel around. They're playing Mobley a lot more. I believe he's starting now. They've reduced Richard Lee's numbers, and the kid that had a great game against us, Kadar Edwards, especially in that second half. Now he's in their starting lineup, and he's playing a lot more minutes too. So, I think Heath looked at his personnel and changed some things around, and I think those personnel changes have kind of ignited their winning streak.
Kadar Edwards had a career high against you in that game, despite the loss, 18 points. Since that game, he's got 4 not just double-figure scoring games in his last 5 games. He's got 4 double-doubles in his last 5 games, double-figure scoring, double-figure rebounding. So he's about their hottest player right now.
Yeah, and he's always been a guy that played with a great deal of energy. But I think his minutes have increased, so he's continued to rebound the basketball. He always did that, especially on the offensive end. But now, because of his minutes has increased, that his output has increased as well too.
He's 6th in the league in rebounding, among the leaders in offensive boards. So he really does a lot of his work on the offensive end. About the only thing where he struggles, 54% from the free throw line. So they're a really good free throw shooting team. I think 2nd best in the league in conference games. But he's not a good free throw shooter.
Which is, kind of weird because he's a good 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
So, you would think a guy that can make 3-pointers can make free throws. So that goes to show you how mental, free throw shooting is.
Tamond Howard is their star player. He actually started at Texas El Paso, played there as a freshman, only got to get in 12 games. And guys, when they don't get the playing time that they think they need, they oftentimes leave. He went to junior college. Now he's in his 2nd season there. He's an all-conference guy. He just came off a career-high 23 Saturday in their win against SIU Edwardsville. But you held him to 2 of 12 shooting and only 5 points in the game. He's the 13th best scorer in the league. How did you hold him to 2 of 12 and 5 points?
Well, I think, first of all, the credit needs to go to our players, because not only did just one person, Joel Angus is a young man who starts off guarding Howard, but we switched the ball screening. We switched the handoffs 4 ways because we thought putting anybody that's guarding Howard in a continuous closeout situation would end up being bad. So we ended up switching 4 ways and all that. So there was times that everybody was guarding him, Jamal Calvin, Eric, Antonius, and our guys did a really good job of carrying out the scouting report and switching, but not just switching with the person on him. We've got a philosophy called 31, which means that every time somebody has a basketball, not one person is guarding him, but 3 people are guarding him. So the person to the right of him, the person to the left of him, they must make sure they're in help position, so appears to be no driving gaps. So I thought our guys were really sound in their switching. They did a great job of maintaining help lines and help positions. So it was kind of a 4 guys doing a great job on him. The thing that you talked about with Howard being at UTEP and end up transferring, I think one thing that as coaches, we're always looking at ways to motivate our guys and to look at hey, if you stick with things, things can end up working out for you. Frank Kaminsky, who ended up being player of the year at Wisconsin as a senior, his freshman year, he averaged 1.5 points per game and played in 8 minutes per game. But knew that he needed to get better as a basketball player and didn't just pick up and leave Wisconsin. He stuck with it. And so with him sticking with it, the dividends that he ended up getting, going to a Final Four, being, an All-American, being a guy who was a Big Ten player of the year, player of the year in some services, hey, it's not just going to be instant success. This is a microwave society. Everybody just wants to throw it in the microwave and automatic success. So we use that with our freshmen sometimes when they get disenfranchised or don't like their playing time or don't like the minutes. Now, sometimes it registers, sometimes it doesn't. But people need to understand, hey, you have to mature. You have to stick with some things. And using, Frank Kaminsky as an example really helps.
And this year, the best player in the country is Buddy Hield of Oklahoma. Look at his freshman year. He did nothing that would lead you to believe that all of a sudden he's going to be an All-American, right?
Yeah, and I tell you, on top of that, if you look at his 3-point shooting percentages his freshman year, it was awful.
Yeah.
I mean, he shot maybe, I want to say 16% from the 3-point line as a freshman. And so now that's a guy that dedicated himself to going in and working and getting better. And so now he goes from being a 16% 3-point shooter to a guy who's shooting in the 40 percentile in 3-point shooting, but a guy that's like winning games with his 3-point shot. That shot he hit Monday, to win the game is just big time. So, it's not just like you have to work on your own individual game. There's just not enough time as a football coach, a basketball coach, or a baseball coach that we can spend with you to get you better. You have to work on your own individual game. And guys that make the sacrifices to doing that are the guys that get better.
Yeah, Buddy Hield, the second leading scorer in the country right now for Oklahoma. Tamon Howard. So they're going to make some adjustments. They're going to see how you defended him. What do you anticipate them countering with on Thursday night about trying to figure out ways to get their leading scorer an opportunity to score more?
Well, it's funny. We ran a play against Eastern Illinois, and one of our players came back to me at timeout and said, Coach, they knew that play. And I was like, really? I said, they got film too? Like, so, guys are always shocked, how we walk through other people's plays and scouting reports and we got film. Yeah, they got that same technology too. So, yeah, I know they know the play, so we still got to run it. But they're going to make adjustments. What I would imagine is that they're going to try to post him a little bit more, when we switch and we have a Jamal Calvin on him or Eric McGill, and try to take advantage of that matchup as well. But I think another thing that they may do is not set as many ball screens with him, or as not as many dribble handoffs, so he can stay isolated on our 4-man to create more opportunities for him to drive the ball one-on-one.
He's had 2 ACL tears. This guy, his name's Miles Taylor. And so I think with Alex Anderson, who's their 3-point shooter, all conference, Tamon Howard, who we just talked about, all conference, some people around the league forget about Miles Taylor. He's the second leading scorer in the history of their program, or the third leading scorer. He's the second leading rebounder in the history of their program, and he's made more free throws than anyone has ever played at UT Martin, 62% from the field. He is a tough matchup.
Yeah, I think what you're trying to say is that he's a good player there.
He's one of the best they've ever had.
Yeah, I tell you this, we always talk about this. Guys that you can't guard in the post, the best way to guard him is don't let him catch the basketball, because like when he catches the ball in the post, now we have to help in some way, form, or fashion. And when we have to help, that makes the people around him really good. So we want to try to avoid that problem by just simply not letting him catch the basketball. You can kind of take away post guys easier than you can take away perimeter guys, because you can't deny perimeter guys throughout. But, he's a big, strong, physical kid, and he draws a lot of contact, and he gets to the free throw line a lot. So what we need to do is we need to continue to make sure that we don't allow him to get post catches, because if he gets a post catch, we have to help, or if it's one-on-one, he's probably going to score or we're going to foul him.
The thing is, you did such a great job. He only had 5 points. Talking about a guy who shot 664 free throws, only 4 free throw attempts against you. Those are the 2 guys that you did the job on, and they lost the game.
Yeah, and I tell you this, I thought Trey did a great job in that game of using his quickness and his athleticism, because, he's a bigger, stronger center. He's a true kind of power forward center type guy, and Trey Kellum is a guy who doesn't have the physical size and strength that he does. So, we told him, use your athletic ability and deny him from getting the basketball. But when he did get the basketball, the other thing we did was we didn't foul him. We tried to wall him up and move and cut him off, and Trey has a propensity to foul at times. So we wanted to make sure we didn't do that.
Boy, and with him having to try and stay with Trey, you're talking about a guy who is big and strong, but he's also had 2 ACL tears, so he may not have that quickness that he once had when he was freshman of the year about 5 years ago.
Yeah, and that doesn't matter to Trey Kellum. He thinks he can score on anybody. So, whether the guy has 2 ACLs or it's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Trey thinks he's going to be able to score. So, it's good for a guy to have that confidence. You much rather have to temper a guy's confidence down than have to build it up.
All right, we'll talk a little bit more about UT Martin and then Saturday's game against Murray State. Since they're fresh in your mind, you know what to expect Saturday at Murray State. But first, we're going to talk some football. Redhawks football coach Tom Matukowicz is here. We'll hear about his recruiting class and the upcoming schedule. Redhawk football talk with Coach Tuk coming up. Redhawks Coaches Show at Wings Etc. in Jackson on SEMO ESPN.
About Wings Etc. See, Wings Etc. has those award-winning jumbo wings. They're popular for both dine-in and carry-out. Now, the word is getting out about Wings Etc.'s appetizer lineup. From the ultimate nachos to the deep-fried pickle spears, frankly, they're irresistible. Friends are sharing time together at Wings Etc. They've got dining rooms filled with HD TVs tuned to the best sports programming, including NFL Sunday Ticket. The people at the next table are talking about Wings Etc.'s daily half-pound lunch special, starting at just $6.49. Plus, Wings Etc. has food and drink specials throughout the week, including 59-cent wings every Monday. Plus, there's the kids menu, and Wings Etc. is family-friendly with video games in the dining room. And the whole community is excited about how Wings Etc. is locally owned and operated, and they're proud to support local athletes, their families, schools, and teams. I guess Wings Etc. is a really big deal around here.
You're grilling for everyone on game day, and people are hungry. More than that, they're hangry, and it's 95 degrees out, and they're thirsty. That's right, people are thrangling. They need to chill, and that gives you an idea. You remember Coors Light is filtered and bottled cold, so you pass some cold ones out. Suddenly, it's like they're snowboarding the majestic Rocky Mountains, speeding away from the peaks of Thrangly and down the slopes of Oh Yes. So they make with the cheering and let you get with the grilling. Well done. Now it's time for your Coors Light. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Great beer, great responsibility.
You've upgraded from your old flip phone. But what about that old vehicle in your driveway? It's time to get into the new with Ford. New is Ford, America's best-selling brand, because new is the power and performance of available EcoBoost engine technology, and new can practically park itself with available active park assist. So get into the new with Ford. Visit your local Ford dealer or go to Ford.com for current offers. Sales claim based on 2015 calendar year sales, January through November.
Catch the St. Louis Blues skate to the Stanley Cup and preseason right here on your home for sports.
All right.
This is ESPN 1220 Cape Girardeau. And now, your ESPN Radio Network local weather forecast.
National Weather Service has a winter weather advisory today with light snow on and off, otherwise a high of only 29. Tonight, clear, cold, down to 16 degrees. We'll hit 29 sunny tomorrow. Partly sunny 35 Thursday, 43 on Friday under sunshine, and right now only 27 sunny on Saturday. Slight chance of snow Sunday with a high near 32 degrees.
You're up to date with the latest weather forecast right here on the ESPN Radio Network.
Well, dude, obviously you'd be better as the focal point of the show. Would I be better for society? No.
Don't miss Russillo and Cano every weekday at noon on SEMO ESPN.
See how you slid that in there, man.
Welcome back to Wings Etc. We are in Jackson, and we'll be back in the Cape Girardeau location next Tuesday at noon. Coach Rick Ray is going to take off. They've got to get a lot of things accomplished here before they head out to UT Martin, and that's going to be a two-city road swing for the Redhawks. They'll play at UT Martin on Thursday, and then they'll travel over to Murray State for a Saturday game. So that'll be a doubleheader on Saturday with the women and the men. But they'll split things up between the women and the men at UT Martin. The Red Hawk women of Rika Patterson will play on Wednesday night, so tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. And then the Red Hawk men will play Thursday at 7 o'clock. So if you're going to make the trip over, it's multiple trips. And then the doubleheader with Murray State coming up on Saturday. Women go first, and then the men will follow after that. We're going to switch gears now and move from basketball to football. Coach Tom Matukowicz is here. What'd you think of the Super Bowl, Coach?
Well, I thought, I was kind of listening to Twitter there a little bit. Everybody's all upset about how bad of a game it was. But if I grew up on the defensive side of the football, and it was like eye therapy to me. I loved it.
Well, I think there are a lot of people that like to see aerial assaults and big runs by running backs and, big plays on the offensive side. So you and Bryce Saya were probably both saying, man, now this is a football game.
Yeah, exactly. All the defensive guys. And I forget the guy, the defensive coordinator, Wade Phillips.
Yeah.
We staff met with him. He was the defensive coordinator in San Diego. And so we took our whole staff there and visited with him, and a lot of the similar stuff we did and still do that he had. And so that was great to see some of the same schemes that we run. And of course, it was a great day for him. getting that Super Bowl championship in that family.
And just prior to the Super Bowl, I believe the night before when they were announcing the Most Valuable Player Award, Defensive Player of the Year, all those things, Coach of the Year, I believe he was named Assistant Coach of the Year in the National Football League. And you're talking about a guy that was on his couch last year. He was out of football, did not have a job. And then Gary Kubiak calls him because he was the defensive coordinator for Kubiak, who was the head coach with the Houston Texans. He comes back, son of the legendary Bum Phillips, and here he is, a top assistant in the sport. Pretty good story.
Yeah, it really is. And just you hear the stories about those players, that Vaughn and all those guys that play for him, and they love him. You know, he's a pretty stoic guy talking to, but when you look at his schemes and the calls that he makes, he really lets those players play, and they play aggressive.
I know when I was growing up, Bump Phillips was the head coach of the Houston Oilers. He had the bad fortune to play in the same division the same time as the Steel Curtain. That's when the Steelers were winning Super Bowls. But he beat the Steelers a couple of times when he was down in Houston, and I know he moved on to New Orleans. But you remember when Bum Phillips was in his heyday with the Houston Oilers? I mean, he was a beloved figure down in the state of Texas.
I heard about it. You know, I didn't grow up in an athletic family. You know, just a couple of years ago, my dad wanted to know when I was going to get a real job. So I don't, you know, in fact, even Sunday, that was the first time I saw either of those teams play. You know, just because that's a big time for us that we're always working. And so I don't get to see a lot of the NFL football.
Well, you got to see a good defensive showdown on Sunday. And, you know, when you look at your recruiting class, a lot of it skewed toward defense on the defensive side of the ball. I think you brought in 7 linebackers and 2 names that many people will recognize, Britt Harris of Kennett and Nick Thompson from Malden. Those are the marquee names that people recognize around here, but you're really stocked up at the linebacking spot.
Yeah, you know, we play a 3-4, and so we need a lot of those guys, and some of those guys can also play a D-end when it's 3rd and 10, you know, just rush the passer. So those guys are just a premium, and we got 2 of the 4 will be seniors, and so we got to get some guys in the pipeline.
So tell us about Nick Thompson from Malden, because boy, he won about every award you can at his level.
Yeah, you know, he came to camp. We knew a lot about him. I fell in love with just his profile. He's had a rough go, and he decided to make great decisions in his life. He's got a great GPA, good test score. He's basically the class president. I mean, he's just beloved down there. And then when he put the pads on, he's straight stone cold killer. So it's a perfect match for us. And so I got to see him run track and just knew a lot about him. And then recruited him hard. He kind of slow played me. I told him, man, I'm kind of like a high maintenance chick now. You're starting to upset me not returning my calls quick enough. So I kind of turned the heat up on him, and then he jumped on it.
Is that a tricky back and forth about how much to turn the heat up, and you might scare somebody off, or not turn the heat up enough because you're not giving them enough a sense of urgency? Is that something that you learn as a coach?
Yeah, it ebb and flows, and you got to do a really good job of knowing who that kid is. But you know, I am who I am. I'm a turn the heat up guy. Like if he doesn't like it, then he's really gonna not like halftime.
How about Britt Harris from Kennett, also a linebacker?
Yes, comes from an unbelievable family, and I love Kennett. Their coaches, the Pixley boys, have done a great job turning that program around, and Brett has been very well coached. And I saw him play live, and you know, he's a good athlete. He's physical. Could probably even play fullback for us. So I'm just glad he's coming. And like I tell him, you know, some kids get here, they've been 18 straight years. You have to basically re-raise them. You know, where this kid, for 18 straight years, there's people just poured into this kid's life. Like this guy's going to probably be the president of the United States someday. He's just that kind of kid, and it's because of his family and the people around Kennett that have really invested in this kid's life.
You know, you look around Southeast Missouri and some of the talent that has come out of our area. William Moore down in Hayti playing in the National Football League, and then at New Madrid County Central, Coney Ely, who became the first. Now, there have been 50 Super Bowls. The first player in the history of the Super Bowl to get multiple sacks and an interception, 3 sacks, an interception, a forced fumble. Kind of shows you, hey, you beat the Bushes. There is some talent in Southeast Missouri.
You bet. I knew that because I was at SIU and we had several players from the Boot Heel. And so even when this job opened, I was probably most excited just about the high school football in the area. And so that's a big part of it. And, you know, we have the Heisman of high school players. I think it's called the DAR. Is that what it's called? The Heisman of high school. Car Award.
The Car Award. There you go.
And we've been able to sign the last 3. And that's a big deal. You know, if we can continue to do that, then, you know, I think that's a great sign.
One of those guys that won the Car Award is Al Young from Cape Central High School. He is obviously, you know, a record setter at Cape Central. I think 12 school records. I believe, I was told he took official visits to Mizzou and the University of Nebraska. So certainly some big programs knew of Al Young. I know you were on him very early. Tell us about the Al Young recruiting process.
Well, it was, you know, it started early. We offered him as early before his junior year, I believe, is when we first offered him. We've been recruiting for a really long time. You know, for whatever reason, he struck up a lot of friendships with some guys on our team. And I think that really helped us, and he felt the most comfortable here. There's a lot of pressure on Al because of in the community, and everybody's ready to build a statue of him right now. And so I just want to, you know, pump the brakes and make sure, number one is don't ever ask me to compare kids, because that's just not fair. We don't do it with our own kids. But it's, hey, you know, is he the next Paul McRoberts? And that's just silly.
Who's Paul McRoberts?
He's the next Al Young, and we're going to get him going and coach him up.
So Al Young.
Speaking of Paul, I got some announcements.
Yes, let's hear about Paul McRoberts.
He's doing a great job. He will not be in the combine, so he did not get invited to the combine. We talked with his agents, and I think.
What does that mean? Does it mean anything if you don't get invited to the combine? It seems odd. The MVP, the senior, or you know, a guy that scored a touchdown in the Senior Bowl had a really good game, not to get invited to a combine.
You know, I don't really know, but when I talked to everybody's kind of excited that he didn't.
Really?
Yeah, because the combine is like here in 2 to 3 weeks. And so really all his training since he stopped playing was for football because of the All-Star game.
Right.
And so his agents were concerned because they haven't really got to the true testing training, you know, the 40s and the shuttle and all that. So they were excited that his pro day is going to get backed up a little bit. So he's got a bigger window to really train for that opportunity. And, you know, you never know when opportunity comes. He does. And when that watch is out, man, there's a lot riding on that. So I think we're all glad that he's not at the combine. He's going to be able to run a 40 at Houck later in the process. So he's going to be able to train for that moment.
Do you know, do you remember what the best 40 time that you guys ever clocked him at? I think we asked him on this show when we had him on. I can't remember.
Yeah, he's high 4.5s. For us,
which is fast enough, right?
Oh yeah. If he hits 4.5s, man, I'm gonna take my shirt off and getting it on.
Yes, yeah. That may not be popular. That may not be popular.
Yeah, you must be talking to my wife, but the problem with that is that's on our watches, and what kids don't understand is, man, they got a hair trigger. They, you know, all those times are generally lower, but it's not electronic like at the combine, which is a good thing. So when they come, and it's going to be a handheld watch on him. So I think it's good news.
And anybody that did not see the Senior Bowl, Paul McRoberts, 4 receptions, 46 yards, caught a touchdown. The only receiver for the South team to catch a touchdown. He caught it from Mississippi State quarterback Dak Prescott. And a guy named Tom Matukowicz turned him into a punt returner. So they said, well, go out and return a punt. And he had the longest punt return in the Senior Bowl of 27 yards.
Yeah, just watching that game, man, it was hard to even, I mean.
Did you take your shirt
say
off?
Word. No.
Okay.
All the clothing stayed on, but there was some hooping and hollering, and we're just proud for everybody. Simo, I mean, the first player in 110 years. I mean, this is really record-breaking stuff that we're trying to get done here, and it's just fun to see a kid live his dream.
What's also neat is to have a guy put up the numbers that he did, impact football games the way that he did, and you're talking about all the accolades and how talented the guy is. And for anybody that said, well, yeah, he's talented maybe for this level, no, he's talented for any level. He went to the Senior Bowl and scored a touchdown. So I think just seeing all the scouts that came through here during the season, NFL scouts, the invitation to the Senior Bowl just kind of verifies, hey, this guy is a next level guy.
Yeah, I watch practice because that's a much better evaluation. And that really, if you're a good player, you're there. And I'm telling you, he stood out. Maybe my love's blind, but when he caught a ball, it sounded different. And there was guys there that was more athletic and maybe faster or even maybe taller even, but the way he caught a ball was just different than everybody else. There's a lot more than just catching it, but that's, last time I checked, pretty important.
What are the measurables? Like we get when they get you to a place like the Senior Bowl or when they get you to the Combine, they do all the measurements. I know he was always listed at 6'3". I think they measured him at about like 6'1 3/4, almost 6'2", with your shoes off. Al Young, what are his measurables? How big is he?
How big is he? That's a great question. He's like 5'10",
okay,
185. He's lost a little bit because they keep running him up and down these basketball floors. They forgot that actually, makes you drop weight. No, I'm kidding. But, he's going to be a guy that we got to get bigger. He's a lot like Dante in the fact that, multiple sports and we need to put some muscle on him.
So he'll be a different type of receiver than Paul.
Yeah, right. Different. Not even, different, almost different positions.
But in terms of that intangible, that make you miss quality, that first step, quickness, speed that you've got to have if you're going to be an explosive impact player, do you see those tools with Al Young?
Number one thing, in my opinion, I haven't coached a kid, so that changes. But number one thing is his ball skill. Like he has the ability to track a ball like I don't think I've seen in a while. I remember 2 years ago, we're at Cape High School. Jackson's playing him. Dante throws a really bad ball up in the air. It happened to be in the end zone, right where I'm at. Al is a defensive back at the time. He jumps up. I swear he looked at me. Came back and touched the ball, took off. And I was like, oh, my God, I love you. Hold me. Well, that is just really uncommon. You're judging a ball like 40, 50, and your timing jumps up, and that's just not normal. And then his wiggle and his ability to do something with the ball in his hands, what's special.
Well, I think the last 6 years on Friday nights during football season, I call the Jackson high school games.
Yeah.
So I've seen Dante and I've seen Al Young. And this year when Cape and Jack, Al Young single-handedly won the game for Cape Central on both sides of the ball.
Yep.
Totally dominated on defense, totally dominated on offense. Where is he more valuable? Where do you need to have him, on offense or defense?
Yeah, I think a guy that can touch a ball and do something with it is everything. And so we're going to start him out as an inside receiver, returner, but just like Paul, I'm always going to try to get, if Al can start at DB, that's what you do, but I do think after watching him at camp and seeing him live, I think that's what's best for him.
All right. We talked about the linebackers. On the offensive side of the ball, no tailbacks recruited because you've got Tremaine McCullough, 1,000-yard rusher coming back. DeMichael Jackson, 1,000-yard guy, All-American who tore up his knee. So you're counting on both of those guys coming back. How is DeMichael Jackson's rehab coming? And what has been your history lately of guys coming back from a torn ACL?
I'd rather get him ACL than a concussion. I mean, just the reality of it, their ability to fix an ACL is just outstanding nowadays. I remember asking those questions when I recruit. One of the first questions I ask is how many concussions you have. I don't ask them if they had ACL surgery, because it's just, you all of a sudden get a history of concussions and it's over. And so they are way ahead of schedule. They won't be live in spring ball, but they will go through spring, and then we'll hit them just a little bit in fall camp just to get them ready for the season. But it's gone well.
All right, we're not trying to hype anybody, and nobody is statue planning, but a couple of names of guys in this recruiting class who have the potential to be impact type guys.
Well, I mean, if I knew that, I'd go buy a lottery ticket. I mean, I'm not a fortune teller. But
the potential.
I'm not going down that road, Big Daddy.
All right. Well, we just wanted a name or two. I know you got a guy, what's his name? Zach Smith, who was pretty highly thought of, a wide receiver out of Male High School in Louisville, state championship program there. And I know that the people in the state of Kentucky think very highly of Zach Smith. Does he have a chance?
Yeah, he's a really big recruit, has a big profile, came from a national program. They were nationally ranked, and he was the best player on that team. He is a great kid. He's a lot like Al, ability to do things with ball in his hand. And so we're definitely excited about him.
Would it be fair to say for your recruiting class, you guys have been all over this part of the state, that you got the best player in your mind in this part of the state, Al Young?
Yes. Yep. And then with Brett and Nick, I think that's the number one goal. We start inside out. I'm going to start the closest school to me is Cape. That's the first stop, and then I'm going from there. And we got to keep our local players home. There's some exciting players next year. Obviously I can't mention them, but there's some good players in the Boot Hill coming up that we got to get on, and we've offered several of them. And the thing that's helped us is the local coaches. The local coaches believe in what we're doing here, and they want their players to play for us, and that's what's exciting.
Your schedule is out. Ironically,
and our AD's here too, so we can. If you got some questions about it, I know a guy that can answer some of those.
Brady Barkey is sitting right back there. You open at Memphis September 3rd, and then it's at SIU Carbondale, and then home against Indiana State. So those are three non-conference. You do not play a non-Division I this year, and that's just the way the schedule kind of worked out this season.
Yeah, so we got a good schedule. I love opening up at Memphis. It is a game that we'll see how good we are right away. We've talked about year 3, and so I think that's a good judge of where this program's at. Obviously they're previously nationally ranked, but it's a 2.5-hour drive for our fans and boosters, and that's a huge place for us recruiting. For a lot of those guys to get to go play in their city. It's exciting. And then I love opening up OVC play with Murray. They, for whatever reason, I can't stand them now. I didn't think they were too bad before I got here, but now I can't stand them. And so that base converted me into hating Murray right now. So I'm excited about that. And what's tough is you look at that schedule, and 2, I think, out of the 7 are home. And so that's what makes it tough. We got to be road warriors and get it on.
All right. Some people may say, now, wait a minute, why don't you have a non-Division I on the schedule? One thing that plays into that is Tennessee State gets special rules in the OVC that no other school gets. They have to play one less conference game than everybody else because they play in a lot of classics. They make a lot of money playing in these classics. So they play one less conference game. Last year, you were the one team in the league that rotates off their schedule. One team rotates off their schedule every year. Last year, it just happened to be you. That kind of plays into why you don't have a non-D1 on the schedule, right?
Yep, and because we're an 11-game season. So that fluctuates. I think the next year we're back to 12 games. If I remember right, I can't remember. I don't know how that even works. But that's also one of the reasons. If you have 12 games, you have one more opportunity to get bring a money type game to your stadium.
And when you open up at Memphis, that's a money game for SEMO. And a lot of people ask from time to time, now what's the difference between an FCS school and an FBS program? And the biggest thing is 22 more scholarships.
Yep, 22 more scholarships, and so the depth and just being able in the fourth quarter to rotate people in and out, is one of the biggest differences. And then obviously just the fact that they play in a bowl system, we play in a championship system. And so kids like that.
I was going to ask Coach Ray, and it slipped my mind, but I know he appreciated it. I know Rika Patterson spoke about it, and a lot of the Red Hawk fans have talked about it. You had the football team there for the last couple of home games, at the Show Me Center, and man, does it make a difference when the students are there in that place.
Yeah, we tell them all the time, I want them to be the standard. I want students to watch us at a basketball game and say, hey, I want to be like that. Don't go in there and sit on your hands. And sometimes you'll get them lips hanging down because I make them go. But, it's easy to say, hey, you want these guys supporting you. You want these guys at Houck in the fall. We need to go support all these other teams, and they do a great job. And we ask a lot of our players and from community service and all those things, and that's just a part of it.
Look at that. Goshi comes to the basketball shows too, Coach.
I know it. It's good to see my man go. He's got a buyout. I gave him we've had a lot of staff changes, so I elevated him this year. I don't know if you heard of his new title.
No.
Yeah, he's the DOS of football operations. So I guess on the radio we'd call it Director of Stuff.
Director of Stuff.
If you're not on the radio, that S is a different word, but so we got him a promotion. His pay's still the same, his food and fellowship, but we love Goshen. I know he's just had a new shoulder put in there, so he's doing well.
All right, good to hear that, and we set you up for a mic drop moment there, the Director of Stuff. We'll wrap it on that, Coach.
All right, thanks for having me. It's
so
good
much
to be back.
Good to see you. All right, that's Coach Tom Matukowicz, and that's going to do it. Thanks to Coach Ray. Don't forget Red Hawk women, 6 o'clock tomorrow at Martin. The men will play at 7 o'clock on Thursday. We'll get you back into ESPN radio programming. So long, everybody, from Wings, etc. in Jackson.
It's Missouri's ESPN Radio Sports Network, 92.9 KLSC Malden, 1220 KTIR, Cape Girardeau, and 1470 KMAL Malden.
As you mentioned, it's completely unpopular, except for the business part of it, where everybody still buys the jerseys, goes to the games, and watches all of them. So the owners, they can keep doing all of this stuff, but we've proven to them that none of this stuff really matters, even though it looks good in the headline.
Right. As bad as the PR gets, as bad as people want to write articles bashing the league, the policies, whatever it is, people are